yan. Okay na ako direct, pero kailangan ko lang ng oras mamaya.
Hi, Prof. Leyco. Good morning. Jess here. Checking if you can hear me okay, sir. Prof. Leyco. I think you're on mute. Are you on mute? Wait. Or may delay lang. Hello, Prof. Leyco. Can you...
Good day, you're watching Businessworld Live. I'm Danie, Laurel.
And I'm Delos Santos. Here are today's top stories. Another massive oil price hike takes effect today, with diesel products climbing by more than 6 pesos per liter.
The Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board admits that a fare hike for jeepneys is already due. Taxi operators are also pushing for an increase in flag-down rates.
Moody's warns that a rapid rise in consumer prices may raise the default risk of borrowers.
And the new app, described by many as anti-Instagram, is taking over the internet. The platform urges its users to be real. We begin our broadcast with yet another big-time oil price hike taking effect today.
Some transport groups are now pushing for a 2 peso increase in jeepney fares because of the continuous rise of fuel costs. Jenny Dong reports.
Lolo Idalberto has been plying his normal route since 4 a.m. this morning. But after 8 hours, he only earned 300 pesos. After refueling, he is left with only 50 pesos and had to make do with coffee for lunch. To be able to meet the 350 pesos boundary and earned an additional take-home pay of at least 200 pesos, he needs to ferry passengers until 10 in the evening. But with another round of price increase in diesel, he is planning to look for alternative livelihood.
Kung wala na kaming kikitain sa pagbabiyahe, wala din mangyayari, buti pa mag-construction na lang. Ang gobyerno natin parang niloloko na lang kami ng ganyan, bababa, tataas ng todo. Sila mga gobyerno, bahala sila kung anong baka gusto nilang pahirapan ng gusto yung mga mamamayan.
Prices of gasoline and kerosene are expected to jump to more than 6 pesos per liter, while gasoline prices will pick up by 1 peso and 40 centavos per liter starting Tuesday. This is the second straight week of big-time price hikes after 7 weeks of continuous price rollbacks. Because of this, transport groups warned the public of fewer jeepneys on the road.
Talagang ganun po ang mangyayari po, ma'am, dahil bakit ka mapapasada kung hindi ka naman kikita? Hindi naman po pwede na magsakripisyo kami na walang kikitain para sa pamilya.
The Federation of Jeepney Operators and Drivers Association of the Philippines, or FEDJADOP, is asking for an additional 2 peso fare hike on jeepneys. The group says it does not want to pass the burden of the increase in fuel prices to passengers, but the members say they also need to earn. The Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board, or LTFRB, says it will release its decision on this latest fare hike petition next week.
They're due naman talaga na. For increase kasi the last time we had this fare rate increase was ang level pa lang ng diesel noon was I think 44 pesos per liter. Just a question of that, kung magkano yung maibibigay namin.
For News 5, Jenny Dongon, BR1 News.
Now, aside from jeepney operators, the taxi sector is also pushing for an increasing flag down rate, but their petition is still awaiting LTFRB decision. The Philippine National Taxi Operators Association said the last hearing on their petition took place around 2 weeks ago. The group's president, Emmanuel, emphasized the urgency of increasing flag down for taxis as fuel prices continue to rise. In a phone message, an LTFRB representative told Businessworld that the petition is now up for resolution. With jeepney fare adjustments likely to be green and go as early as next week, should Filipinos be bracing for more pain ahead? Let's get insights from Economist and pamantasan ng lungsod ng Maynila President, Professor Emmanuel Leyco. Good day, Prof. Leyco. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for the invite. Nice to see you again.
All right, nice to see you again, of course, Prof. Leyco. Now, you have, again, like what we reported earlier, price adjustments for jeepney by next month. Add to that possible hikes as well in other mode of transportation. Second round effects already coming into play. How is this going to affect the rest of the inflation basket?
I think it will affect the inflation negatively, as we have seen in the last in the last report of our inflation. Transportation was the biggest contributor to inflation, and with this volatility and continuing upward movement of and fares going with it, I think that will be inflationary as well.
Okay, sir, another issue here, of course, is the big-time oil price hike. Another series again today. We had already some rollbacks and now again increases. Tell us, sir, is there some visibility now in terms of the pricing of oil, especially since, it has actually stayed below $100 a barrel already? Is this something that's still related to the supply from the Ukraine-Russia war, or is this already an issue, that is OPEC-driven, or, the supply side from Libya, and to what extent can this actually be predicted, sir?
Well, just checking the oil prices in the world market this morning, the volatility remains regardless whether it's Libya.
Okay, we seem to be having some problem trying to connect with the Professor Leyco here. Okay,
there,
I think we already have him on the
sir.
line
Go
again.
ahead.
Prof. Leyco, go ahead, as you were saying.
Okay, the volatility with the oil prices in the world market continues, and it doesn't seem to be the case that with supplies coming from different sources coming in, it will already stabilize. And I think if it does, it will take a while.
Okay, this time around, of course, we're going to continue our discussion with Professor Leyco later on in the program. We'll just try to fix, of course, some technical issues at the moment, but very interesting discussion here so far. Of course, when it comes to transport fare hikes and even the prices of oil. We'll be pausing for a quick break, but coming right up after that. House Deputy Speaker and Batangas Representative Ralph Recto flags unprogrammed funds worth 588 billion pesos in the proposed 2023 budget.
More of that and other stories when Business World Live returns. Stay with us.
And you're still watching Business World live here on One News. I'm Jess Delos Santos.
And I'm Danie, Laurel. Now we are going to throw back to our guests earlier on, Professor Emmanuel Leyco, of course, President of the Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng Maynila. Hello, Prof. Welcome back. Prof, let's kick off where we left off.
Yeah.
Sorry, let's go back to where we left off. I was asking regarding the oil price hike that is, of course, coming into play today. What is bringing this about? Is this still related to the war situation in Russia and Ukraine, or are there other issues here at play? And has the supply, to a certain extent, normalized? Can the prices now be predicted better than before?
Well, actually, the supply issue has not stabilized yet. It seems that even with the U.S. And other players coming into the picture, they are not able to stabilize the supply at this.
Okay, we'll try to get back to Professor Leyco. Yes, sir. Yes, go ahead, sir. We can hear you.
Upsurge, the supply is not able to cope with the demand.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's pick on another topic here, of course, related to that. Of course, earlier we were talking about fare hikes and then oil this time around. Does this mean, of course, that the worst is not yet over for inflation? And when do you see price pressure speaking, and until when do you see it remaining a challenge?
Well, two factors are...
Okay, we seem really to be having a difficulty here trying to connect with
in the
Professor Leyco. We'll try to fix that, of course, as soon as we can. We'll try to get back to Professor Leyco. But for now, let's proceed to other stories here, particularly this one. You have the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry saying that House Speaker Martin Romualdez has committed to having at least 5 measures on the group's wish list enacted in the next 3 years. PCCI said its officials met with Romualdez earlier this month to discuss their legislative agenda, but among the PCCI's 16 proposed measures, only packages 3 and 4 of the Comprehensive Tax Reform Program were included in the priority measures announced by President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. during his SONA. ₱588 billion shades of gray. That's how Deputy Speaker and Batangas Representative Ralph Recto describes the unprogrammed appropriations worth ₱588 billion that he found in the proposed 2023 national budget. Recto said some ₱380 billion of the unprogrammed funds, which he described as, quote, unclear and undefined, are allocated for supposed support to foreign-assisted projects. About ₱150 billion meanwhile are listed for, quote, support for infrastructure projects and social programs. Recto said the Marcos administration should itemize the specific use of these unprogrammed funds. Recto likewise pointed out that the unprogrammed funds for next year is more than double this year's budget. Recto said the total budget proposal for next year is worth ₱5.856 trillion, as the unprogrammed funds were not included in the total amount of the budget proposal. The DBM explained that the unprogrammed funds can only be used if tax collections of the government exceeds the target.
The DBM submitted an unprogrammed fund of roughly ₱588 billion. What are the chances of this being spent as well?
The release of the budget under the unprogrammed appropriation will trigger when there are excess revenues from the national government, Mr. Chair.
Do we expect a part of the unprogrammed to be spent next year?
I suppose, Mr. President, because this year, for example, we were able to fund or generate excess revenues, and we were able to fund some of the projects under the unprogrammed appropriations.
Yes.
Budget deliberations will continue today. PCSO and PAGCOR, two of the government's revenue-generating agencies, will defend their proposed budget before the House Committee on Appropriations.
Now, the Marcos administration may consider another round of annual salary increases for government workers starting 2024. This as the scope of the salary standardization law is only until next year. Finance Chief Ben Diokno said the 2023 budget includes an appropriation for a study on the need and level of next round salary increases from 2024 onwards. The Budget Department said an allocation worth 49.5 billion pesos was given to the Governance Commission for Government-Owned and Controlled Corporations to conduct the study. Diokno explained that part of the study would assess the sustainability of further salary hikes amid the tighter fiscal space and the plans to right-size the government.
This from the Philippine Star. The Contact Center Association of the Philippines is optimistic about the potential of the IT BPM sector to create more jobs and revenue in the next 6 years. CCAP says the IT BPM industry could grow by up to 10% annually in export revenue and about 8% annually in additional jobs by 2028. But the group notes that government support is vital in achieving this. They even stress that with the right support, the top end of its growth target range can be attained.
And here's another one from the Philippine Star. Moody's Investor Service warns that a rapid rise in inflation may raise borrowers' default risks in the Philippines. The debt watcher said an acceleration in inflation has historically reported increases in non-performing loans among the ASEAN. Moody's Vice President and Senior Analyst Rebecca Tan said that although higher interest rates will largely widen the bank's net interest margins, asset risks will also increase. Despite this, Moody still expects interest rates to rise gradually and inflationary pressures to abate in 2023.
Okay, this time around, I think we are supposed to go back to Professor
Second
Leyco.
time's a charm.
3 times the charm. Let's see. Prof. Leyco, can you hear us?
If I can hear you, my apologies.
No worries, or of course,
It
things like that
happens, sir.
happens, especially on live program. But then again, as earlier, we were talking about inflation. Given all the things that we are experiencing, again, you have another round of oil price hike today. At the same time, possibility of transport fare hikes. Is the worst over here for inflation? When do you see price pressure speaking, and until when do you see that remaining a challenge?
Well, I'd like to think that the
Okay, third time might not be a charm, Jess.
and
Okay, holding on to the line there.
I'm so sorry.
No
and then
worries,
the currency
Professor.
depreciation moving, I think inflation will continue to be an issue for us.
Okay, sir, let's talk about the issue of the budget. So 5.268 trillion budget for 2023. How are you seeing this? Is that enough to bolster recovery? And how can we ensure that this time we will be using it to really, go to the areas where it's needed the most post-pandemic?
Well, the problem with the implementation of projects has always been around. It's nothing new to us. But it doesn't mean that we should stop trying, but I think we should try new our project.
Okay, you know what? Definitely, of course, we have more insights to get here from Professor Leyco. It's just that, of course, technical issues really not permitting that at the moment. But thank you very much for your time again, Professor Emmanuel Leyco, Economist and President of the Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng Maynila. A new app is trending among Gen Zers, is that what they are called now? And millennials, it's
Like
dubbed as
me.
anti-Instagram, as it claims to be a more authentic social platform. Let's find out if this is worth the hype in this Bloomberg report.
There's a new social media app trending amongst Gen Z and millennials. Heralded as the anti-Instagram, Be Real purports to be a more authentic social platform.
It's just a great way to kind of see what your friends are up to in real time. Like I personally have a friend who's a mom, a friend who's traveling right now, a friend who's working on different projects creatively. And so I kind of get to see a little bit of that every single day.
The app requires you to post one picture a day with no filters or editing. You have 2 minutes to post a picture, one from the front camera and one from the back camera simultaneously. If you miss the 2-minute window, your post will be marked as tardy and you won't be able to see your friends' pictures until you post your own. To date, Be Real has been downloaded 27 million times globally. Now, that's a long way short of the 2 billion daily active users that Facebook has and even the 238 million that Twitter has, but it still regularly tops the App Store as the most popular free app. The US is Be Real's biggest market, accounting for nearly 40% of its total downloads. UK is in second with 15% and France ranks third with 8%. Some are attributing Be Real's explosive growth to Instagram fatigue.
I think people are getting fatigued with Instagram, especially lately, because the way they've changed the algorithm multiple times and are currently pushing reels and video, which are great for some people and some content creators that do that, but not everyone has the time or bandwidth to create those. I think the main attraction of Be Real versus other platforms is that it's kind of leveling the playing field, and you get this notification once a day and you kind of post it and you're done. You can scroll to see what everyone's doing, but you're not being sucked in like other platforms are trying to get you to just scroll all day.
The main unanswered question for Be Real is how it intends to make money. Less user attention means less opportunity to serve them ads, but it's also unclear that users would be willing to pay a monthly subscription fee. For now, it's funded by venture capital, and it's attracted the attention of big US names like Andreessen Horowitz, Accel Partners, and DST, who've put a combined $30 million between them into the company.
As far as Be Real being the next biggest platform, I don't think it's necessarily going to dethrone any other platform. I think it answers a different set of needs that we all have as users. And so I can definitely see it staying around and being used as long as it stays true to how it started.
I haven't even entered TikTok yet, and now you have a new
Jess,
app here.
it's time for you to be real.
Okay, we'll think about that. Those are the biggest stories on the economic and corporate front today. I'm Jess De Los Santos.
And I'm Danie, Laurel. We are One News, all sides, all the time. But don't go away. We'll give you the latest on the local bourse when Business World Live returns. Stay with us.
And you're still watching Business World Live here in One News. Now, Dan, global markets were spooked beginning Friday from those comments at Jackson Hole, but the Asian Open finally showing some signs of optimism this Tuesday as local traders go back to their desks. Tell us more.
All right, Jess. Well, like you mentioned, we were closed yesterday for trading. But if you look at the global situation here, yesterday was pretty spooky. And like you mentioned, it started from those comments at Jackson Hole. Essentially, what did happen here? The central bank's top officials came all together in Jackson Hole. And the main message was everyone is ready to follow through with higher interest rates, except for Japan, essentially, who has said, they will continue with this accommodative policy. But the question here is, will this now be tipping the US into a recession. The Fed seems to be willing to let the economy suffer for it to cool those price pressures. Now, like you mentioned, though, Asia is pulling its weight here. But if you take a look at how our index is moving, supposedly, maybe some days of, catching up here in terms of that slide. We didn't slide yesterday, and we do seem to be opening on the back foot down to 6,600 levels. I did want to take a quick peek at the currencies, especially Asia. If you take a look at here how the year-to-date is going, the Philippine peso is still on the lower end, and yesterday and also on Friday, showing a remarkable exodus from emerging market currencies, Jess. This morning, that's the banking space, especially on the back of higher interest rates coming. The good news is that according to a banking report from Businessworld, that's a quarterly banking report, our banks grew by double digits annually in the second quarter, the assets. We have not seen this space since before the pandemic. So it's 11% or 11.7% up year on year to 20.84 trillion pesos in the second quarter, and loans were up by 12.6%, Jess.
Okay, from banking, let's go this time to the telco space again. You have a DITO likely to reach its target.
Exactly that, Jess. So, ask around and see whether people have started to get into Dito Telecom, because apparently they have now reached 12 million subscribers. That effectively breached the 70% population target that they were hoping to achieve. They're also saying that they're looking to be profitable by 2026. Now, they said apart from, cell phone, the 5G home Wi-Fi is also attracting some growing number of users. They are now in over 600 municipalities and cities in the area. Meanwhile, you've got Globe saying that they've installed 933 sites for 5G in the first half. That's around 97% of NCR, 86% of Visayas and Mindanao. Taking a look, however, at our telco players, not much excitement here for the morning, at least in the past 3 days. You can see, PLDT down by 2.7%, Globe down by more than 2%, and Dito Telecom, despite all of these issues, down by a hefty 4%.
There's so much happening, of course, in the telco space. But that's it for today, August 30, 2022. Join us again tomorrow at exactly 9:30 a.m. You can also catch us on Signal Play. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Jess Delos Santos.
And I'm Danie, Laurel. Mask on, wash hands, stay safe, Philippines. We are One News, all sides, all the time.